What's popping, gamers? Today we're going to be playing Age of Civilizations, and I'm going to be showing you some of the scenarios I've been working on. Some of them are cool, some of them are different, and I've worked on quite a bit of them in the past couple of weeks, so I just wanted to show them all off today, so that's the plan. Similar to that other one we did where I showed off all my Fallout ones and all the stuff like that. So, again, the workshop's coming out soon. The map editor recently came out, meaning that a lot of new maps can be created. I've messed with it a little bit, but it's really difficult to get, like, I don't know, started with it. There's a lot you have to do, and I think me, myself, I'm probably too stupid to even know how to use it. So I'm going to save it for the pros, aka I'm just lazy. But aside from all that, if anybody's out there who is willing to make a Elder Scrolls map, definitely make Tamriel. So yeah, that's pretty much the only map I wanted to make anyway, was just a Tamriel map. There's nothing really else I really think I would make personally, but I don't know. Overall though, for my first scenario, we're going to show off the Marvel universe. If you guys didn't know, Marvel has a lot of nations in its comic books that are based in the real world, while also some of them, of course, based in outer space and things like that, but a lot of them are actually based here on Earth, so I can really do a interesting scenario based off that. And I've done quite a bit. As you can see, there's a lot of random border gore, and you might be saying, oh, that looks pretty bad. Well, this country actually starts out with a conflict with Afghanistan, and this is the Ten Rings, which is from the Iron Man movies. You might recognize them as the terrorist group from the Iron Man movies. And yeah, that's pretty much who they are. When I've simulated this, they get pretty powerful, but it really just depends on if they can keep hold of their territory at the start. Over here you have Hydra with some bases they're also helping out in Afghanistan with the Ten Rings. I gave them an alliance, so the Ten Rings and Hydra are allies. And if you guys didn't know, in the comics, well, not in the comics exactly. I guess it's more of the movies. The movies was kind of picked up with Hydra and the Ten Rings being allies. Like, they're working together in the newer movies, but even in the comics, they've worked together a little bit. Not too much from what I'm aware of, but every now and then you see them kind of work together. So I made them allies, and they're working in Afghanistan to, kind of go after a weak country, and their goal is to formulate a decent-sized territory to probably attack the Avengers or something. I don't know. Over here you have Afghanistan, which is actually, this is a nation that comes from the Conan the Barbarian comic books, which is still within the Marvel universe, so I included it anyways. There's a lot of other nations I could have included in this area that are from this, but I don't really think it's not really that related to Marvel, so at the same time I don't want to add a lot of random nations, but you never know, they might do I think I just had a voice crack. You never know, they might do a movie of it eventually, so I just threw that in here for the fun of it. Over here you have Kunlun, which is actually a mythical nation that is rumored to be in the Himalayas in the Marvel Universe, and I think you can only enter it every something years. I think it's only open like after a certain amount of years passes, but I added them in. They're not really supposed to be this large of a country, but I just said why not. I wanted the border to look kind of interesting. Otherwise it'd just be this small little territory. Down here by Singapore, I added a couple more Hydra bases on these islands, along with another Marvel nation, Madripoor, and I started them off as a very poor country. Similar to the comics, they're a pretty poor place, so that's why poor is in their name, I guess. I don't know. But yeah, this country is based off a country somewhat near Singapore, so I just gave them these islands over here. I'm not exactly sure where it would be based off of if it was by Singapore. The comic books don't really give us any hints, but I'd assume it would be, kind of, I don't know, kind of like right next to it. Maybe another island broke off or something like that, so that's why I just gave it these islands over here. And yeah, On to the next civilization I gave freedom. Obviously, you guys have been waiting for me to show you guys this. Wakanda is here. Naganda is here. Wanka is here. Nairobi is here. All the different countries in this African region, well, the major one at least, are here. Canada is also here. So we have all the major countries from the Marvel Universe in Africa in this one region. There's a few other small ones that I introduced somewhat down here. I think is Burundi, and I think I had another one, if I'm not mistaken. It might have just been these Hydra bases. I think that's what it was. So we also have some Hydra bases here in Mali, just to kind of give them some more power, since I think they're kind of weak where I started them at. And you'll see that in a second where I started them. But first I'm going to show you some of the changes made to the Balkan region. And believe it or not, there's a lot of changes that actually take place in Marvel in the Balkan region. So a lot of new countries here, believe it or not. You have Transylvania, you have Latveria, which is where Doctor Doom leads this country. You have Simkaria, you have Transia, and you have, from the movies, Sokovia. So there's a lot of different countries in the Balkans, and I think it's really cool, the overall dynamic of it. And I had a lot of fun playing as Latveria, and I had a lot of fun playing as Sokovia. So that's what I did. I did some of these playthroughs, and they were pretty fun to do. This one was somewhat difficult because I had to take over Simkaria, and then I had to move into Transia. So that was a little bit of a struggle to play as Latveria, but it all worked well in the end, and it was all pretty fun. So I enjoyed doing that. In terms of the United Kingdom, there's a few different changes. There's Camelot, and there is Asgard. Now, you might be saying Asgard is in Sweden, based off the new movie Thor Ragnarok. They are claiming that Asgard is coming to Earth, so I'm just adding it early. But in the comics, there's also an alternate version of this where Asgard comes to Earth, but it's in Oklahoma. So I'm not sure if they're going to have Oklahoma be the place for Asgard like in the comics, or they're going to move it to Sweden. But based off of the actual movie itself, Thor Ragnarok, the place where Odin dies and says that this is home, or remember this place, or whatever he says in that one line, it's actually filmed right here in Ireland. So I'm not sure if Asgard will be in Ireland or Sweden or Oklahoma, but for the, I don't know, sake of the movie, I'm putting it in Ireland. If you guys don't agree, we'll have to wait and see. Technically, there's already a version of it in Oklahoma, but I mean, do you really want me to make a random country in Oklahoma? I guess I could if I wanted to, but it'd be really weird to see, you know, a random Asgard in Oklahoma on this map when it's mostly just about playing the game and taking over countries. So if you were in Oklahoma, you'd have a hard time winning as Asgard. I don't know. If you guys want me to move it to Oklahoma, tell me below. You want me to move it to Sweden, tell me below. I can add like small provinces all over the place. I mean, I could put it in all three if I really wanted to. So it really just depends. Should I have two different versions of Asgard, one in Ireland and one in Oklahoma, based on the comics, or, you know, what should I do with that? Just tell me below. Does anybody even care? I don't know, but yeah. Thanks for watching. Here in the ocean, you have Attilan, and down here to the south, I believe I added Atlantis. So, again, both of these are pretty large countries in the comics. Attilan is a futuristic country in the middle of the ocean, and Atlantis is a country for Namor. And yeah, pretty cool, pretty cool. Over here in South America, we have I can't speak today. San Domingo, which is a very poor country that eventually kind of recovers in the comics, but it's really unsure if they completely recover. So I started them out very poor when you start as this country. But San Domingo is located between Paraguay and Bolivia, so I just gave them this nice little country. It's believed, I think it's just a city, but there's not really any good spot for a city tile. And I wanted them to have, you know, it's a Marvel country. I don't want South America to be boring. So I gave them a kind of decent little border. And you know what? I like it. So I'm going to keep it that way. Some more Hydra bases here in the Central Americas and Mexico. And aside from that, there's not really too many changes here from what I believe. So all this is just the same. So again, not really that many changes in that area. But down here in the south, we have Hydra, which controls parts of Argentina. I did this based off of not the comics, but I did this based off of the meme that Hitler escaped Australia, or not Australia, Antarctica, or not. Well, he did escape to Antarctica in one version of it, but Argentina was what I was trying to say. But I just added them here for the memes because Hydra is based off of the Nazis, and you know what? It's good enough for me. I like this scenario. I thought it was pretty fun to play. And it does look alright when you zoom out. It looks pretty good. So, overall, that is the Marvel scenario. Did you like it? Did you not like it? I don't really care. Next scenario. Boom. Our next scenario has a lot of border gore, so I do apologize for that. But there's really nothing else you can really do with it. This is a scenario based off of Nintendo, and a lot of the games that Nintendo have aren't based off of Earth, so you gotta try your best, and I just did whatever. So, well, there are some that are based in Earth, like the Pokemon games, which I'll get to in a second. If you guys didn't know, Univo is based off of New York. You probably already knew that. Over here is Kalos. Over here in Japan, we have Hoenn, we have Johto, we have Kanto, and we have Sinnoh. As well as the Orange Islands, which I just added here in Micronesia. And yeah, so there are a lot of different countries that are based on Earth from Nintendo. So I added those, and I also added a Lola over here. So our first country I added in India was Donkey Kong Country as one of our first Nintendo kingdoms. Overall, they're a pretty powerful country, and I think they do pretty good if I played as them. I haven't done any playthroughs as this yet, but I did kind of time-lapse it a little bit, and it's pretty interesting what happens, so I do like to overall watch what happens in this scenario. In the Middle East, we have Hyrule. Now, you might be asking why we have the Middle East filled with a lot of the different Zelda countries. It's mainly because Zelda is a very diverse place. You have some Zelda games taking place on islands, some in deserts, some on alternate universes, and it's just a very diverse area. So it's really hard to map out where it would be in the real life, but based off of the monsters you can expect to find in The Legend of Zelda, a lot of them have the Greek style, and a lot of them have the somewhat Middle Eastern style mixed in with it. Some even have kind of an Indian style mixed in with it, so it's really hard to pinpoint where it would be located as Hyrule, but I chose Greece for Hyrule. I chose, well, I'm not even going to try to pronounce this. I'm going to fail epically. But I put them here. We have I can't talk today. Koholint Island, which is from Legend of Zelda Link's Awakening. You have Termina, and you have New Hyrule, which is created after the fall of Hyrule. And overall, I really like the dynamic in this region. I think it works well, and it's kind of fun to overall watch as it plays out. Up here in the north, we have the Mushroom Kingdom as the USSR type of country. I have it here because there's a lot of memes that Mario looks like Stalin, so I just thought it fit well. And I also put the Koopa Kingdom in Berlin, so technically there is a rivalry between the two, and it kind of makes sense. You know, you got Stalin and Hitler, so it works for me. I think it's funny. And then over here, of course, you have Kalos, which is nothing different. And yeah, that's kind of your main European theater type of countries. So down in Africa, we have Zebes, which is the planet or solar system, from what I believe, from the Metroid games. I've actually never played Metroid as a whole. I've played it for a little bit on my emulator app, and aside from that, I really haven't got too big into it. So I'm not too familiar with Zebes or anything about it. But I did add it here in Africa because why not? So again, if you guys like Metroid, I did include it. Below that, we have the Lilith sector, and that is from the Star Fox games, which is pretty cool. And I have played the Star Fox games on the SNES and the Nintendo 64. So over here now, let's go across the whole map. I don't think I have anything in South America. You might be asking, Raider Knight, why are the borders so bad? That's because I was lazy and I didn't finish it. Over here we have Eagle Land in the south, which you might be asking, what is Eagle Land? It takes place in the Mother series, and Eagle Land is essentially the nation that the game takes place in. It's based off of a, somewhat suburban America. Eagle Land is in the game, so I put it in Texas because in Mother 3, there's a lot of people who are just cowboys in that game. So I just thought it was a kind of, a fitting thing to kind of have it in Texas in the South, because it does seem to take place kind of in the South from what I'm aware of at least. So that is where Eagle Land is. And then over here on the West Coast, we have Mute City, Dreamland from Kirby, and the Mirror World, which is also from Kirby. Mute City is from the F-Zero games, and it is a pretty good racetrack that I almost broke the world record on, believe it or not. So overall, this was a pretty fun scenario. Nothing too crazy, but let's move on to the next one. One of my newer scenarios is if Rome never fell. So this one's pretty interesting because obviously Rome was going to fall regardless. The overall problems within the empire, the debt, and the very well differences in the culture is what led to the fall of Rome. But just for the fun of it, I said, what if they never fell? Maybe they, allowed all religions. They worked really hard to extend. Well, they'd have to fix their wealth gap in the country as well. They'd have to, because there was a massive wealth gap in the Roman Empire, which also caused a lot of people to not like the emperor, which also led to kind of, the downfall of Rome in a way. But there's a lot of things that would change. Obviously, Rome would not be able to hold control of all of its territories. As you can see, they lost some land over here to the Arabians. And if you guys didn't know, also, after the Romans fell, the Arabians essentially took over all of North Africa, Spain, and they became a massive empire. So the same thing applies, but with a Roman Empire here, Arabia would not win that easy. So what would happen would probably be a standoff here in the Red Sea, as well as a standoff here around the Black Sea and Constantinople, where neither side would really be able to advance, and that would kind of, be the end of it. So either they attack each other in the future, or it kind of just goes to nothing, and the rivalry just slows down over the years. We don't really know. You might be asking, where are the Germanic tribes? Due to the Roman aggression in the region, the Germanic tribes would most likely unite into some form or another united region. So there's no real way to know what the name of the Germanic Tribe United Federation would be called, but I named it the German Empire because that's about the closest we got. So that works. Over here we have the Russian Empire, which would still exist, and we have the Swedes, we have the Geats, we have the Goots, and we have the Engels. We have the Picts, and we have Munster over here. Who colonized the New World, you might be asking? It was a mix between both the Romans and Ming China, the rest of which are all just slowly developing Indian tribes into nations. and they all received guns as the Romans and the Chinese started to colonize the region, but based off of large tensions in the old world, neither side can really focus too much on colonization if it's even worth it at all. So the main conflicts are really here in the old world, and the new world is, well, yes, a interesting place to possibly colonize for the future. There's really nothing there that can provide current value to the Ming and Rome empires because they would be focusing their efforts on a region that is definitely like not really too needed of protection, and there's a lot of conflict in the Middle East and Central Asia between the two powers as they struggle for power. So really anything could happen between Ming and Rome, but they are the two major powers. Kind of like a Cold War scenario. I didn't really explain it that well, but overall this was a fun scenario, and I think it'd be a very interesting one to play. So if you guys would like me to play as this or time-lapse it, tell me below, and I definitely will consider it. And finally, the last but not least scenario, we have the Bronze Age taking place in the year 1227 BC, and it is a very interesting time indeed. If you guys didn't know the history of the Bronze Age, I'll just fill you up with it real quick. Essentially, the Bronze Age is exactly how it sounds. It's just a age based off of bronze. Whoever has the bronze controls the power. And bronze is made with tin and copper, and you forge it to create bronze, which is a powerful material used in swords, tools, and everything else in the empires. So, obviously, in this scenario, you have the Hittite Empire, the Egyptian Empire, which is also ancient Egypt, and you have Assyria, which is a rising power from the east. So, in this scenario, the Egyptians are the most powerful country on the earth. They don't really have too much bronze, but they do have some. The Hittite Empire is the largest bronze nation, and they have a fairly large economy. Not as good as, well, actually, they are better than Egypt, just by a little bit, which is kind of interesting. Let's look at the population. I think the Hittite Empire is also a little bit more populated as well. So the Hittite Empire is very powerful, as well as Egypt. It is a very even match between the two. Really, either one can win, and Assyria to the east could also play a massive part, as it did in real life, with the fall of Egypt and the Hittite Empire, as Assyria took over the Middle East. So that's real life, but how it goes in this scenario is all alternate history, and anything can happen. So it's fun to play between the balance of power as the three world powers kind of fight it out for control. This is a fun scenario, and I would definitely recommend, I don't know, trying it out when I add it to the workshop or making your own real quick before the workshop comes out. Really anything works, but yeah, it's a fun one, and I might play it in the future, I'm not sure. Overall, a really good scenario that's fun to play. And those are my top scenarios. Hopefully you like them. And I'll see you all for the next video. Peace.